and welcome to Time of Death. I'm your host, Dee.
And I'm your other host, Ris.
And tonight we have a thrilling, strange case. You do it better than I do.
Oh.
Bobby just gave you a really dirty look.
If you are new here, welcome. We are two nurses that love to talk true crime. We like to focus on cases that have a heavy medical influence to them or cases that feature a medical professional as the perpetrator or the victim. Again, for the month of October, we are veering a little bit off course, and so be prepared.
Yes, and it is All Hallows Eve.
The day before Halloween.
We're hanging out with some black cats and werewolves.
And werewolves.
One little lonely werewolf.
One very tiny werewolf.
And some ghouls.
And some ghouls. It's a ghouls night.
It's a ghouls night. Tonight. I did give a spoiler last week.
No, we flat out told them what we were doing.
Oh, dang. Dang. I can't build the suspense. So if you're here, you know what we're about to talk about.
You know. What we're covering tonight is
Wolves of Where. Where are the wolves?
Wherefore art thou, wolves?
I meant to just do a spoiler last week, and I just explicitly said what it was.
I'm sorry, that happens.
I get so excited and so passionate that the cat, or should I say wolf, was let out of the bag.
You're under wolf tonight.
What can I say? Spooky season is in full force. So we're going to be covering a fascinating condition called hypertrichosis. Hypertrichosis.
What's that?
Sometimes called werewolf syndrome. This is the condition that inspired legends, incited fear, and sadly led to centuries of exploitation. Hypertrichosis. I practiced this so many times and I still beep it up. Beep. If you keep, I censor myself.
We don't know how to censor swear words, so we just beep ourselves.
That actually is very effective.
That works, yeah.
Anyways, this is the disease that shaped the idea of wild man, wolf man, and eventually werewolf. From medieval courts to circus sideshows, tonight, Time of Death will reveal the true stories behind the legends. Just awkward pause.
You are.
Trying to build tension and you're looking at me like, okay, keep going. So let's start with the basics. Hypertrichosis is a rare condition that causes the body to grow excessive hair all over, including areas that don't normally grow hair. So the face, like your nose, your cheeks, your eyelids.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And by doing this, it can really make someone look furry or animal-like. Not furry, the furries, but furry, just regular old furry. You I know. I'm just clarifying. Not the community of furries, but just the adjective furry.
Okay.
So this isn't just a little bit of extra body hair. Mm-hmm. This is dense, thick, dark hair, covering, again, areas that normally don't, the face, forehead. And there's actually two main types, and we'll get into this a little bit more. Congenital, which means you're born with this hypertrichosis.
Oh my God.
And acquired hypertrichosis, which oftentimes develops later in life. So just very briefly, we'll get more into this later. Congenital hypertrichosis is due to a specific gene mutation, depending on what type they have. Again, more detail later. And this mutation turns on certain hair growth genes. With congenital hypertrichosis, the hair is very thick and dark at birth.
So they come out covered in fur.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Acquired.
I hired. You're hired.
You're hired. Hypertrichosis can be triggered by different factors like meds, cancers, even certain metabolic disorders. Again, I keep saying this, but we will get into this more later. For those
What, the reasons?
Yeah, because that's what I really like. Like, why? Why?
Yeah.
Give me the why.
I mean, I've heard maybe of this, but not that much. So this must be very rare.
I will get more into it. Well, you read my mind, because only fewer than 100 documented cases are going on globally right now.
Dang, that's crazy.
Very rare. And that's specifically for the congenital form.
Okay.
So this has significant impact on people's lives. The isolation, again, is much worse by the stigma that surrounds their appearance. People with this illness can feel self-conscious, can feel rejected socially. You would think that people would be more understanding, but unfortunately, even now, this stigma exists. It's a condition that impacts the body, yes, but also significantly impacts people's social lives, relationships, and their mental health. So, where did the connection between hypertrichosis and werewolves come from? Well, that's a great question, Ris, as she's wrestling with the cat.
It was in my brain, though.
This takes us back hundreds of years ago to one of the most famous early cases. What is going on with this cat? He'll walk over, he'll come over here, nudge my face, and I'm talking, I'll scratch him a little, then he runs over to Ris and is like throwing himself at her. How are you chasing me?
Well, our setup basically is there's a desk it's a cramped desk with my laptop in the middle, our two mics on stands in a little, I don't know what this thing is called, a recorder thingy, and it's just cramped. And Bubba is a big cat. He's like,
oh my God, you said his name.
Now he's coming over.
He's like Beetlejuice.
Bubba Juice.
Bubba Juice.
Hey, Bub. But he's such a good cat. But he really
Clingy.
When he comes like onto the desk and walks through, everything's disrupted.
Any recordings we've just lost because of him. And this we've lost so many recordings because of him.
He's really problematic. He's problematic.
But we're so cute. He's leaving.
Oh, he just left. He's like, all right, fine.
He's
say,
like,
say
wow.
less. I'll bring my affection elsewhere.
Goodbye. Farewell. Farewell, you witches. So, before I was distracted by the cat, I was talking about one of the most famous early cases. Petrus Gonsalves.
Who's that?
The earliest case.
Okay.
Petrus was born in the Canary Islands in the 1500s, and he was an individual who had the congenital type. He was covered in hair from head to toe. Word of his appearance reached French nobility, and he was brought to the court of King Henry II. Instead of seeing him as an equal, he was a spectacle, an exotic animal in the court.
Wow.
He was dressed up in noble clothing and kept at court like a pet.
Oh my gosh.
Despite this, he ended up getting married and went on to have children.
Wow. Did they carry the gene
Good
as
question.
well?
Good question. Because some of his children inherited that same disease, and they became a curiosity throughout Europe.
That's so sad.
So sad. People began to associate these appearances with that of animals, like the qualities of animals, like wild, ferocious. And soon, folklore began to blend with reality. Werewolf legends were common across Europe, and they were described as people who were cursed to live as wolves. Now, wolves are one of my most favorite animals.
Jeez.
And since I was a kid, a child,
I know, yeah.
I had statues everywhere of wolves. I would have been okay with turning into a wolf every time of the month. I thought let's not go there. Thank you. So
Thanks,
this holds
Mommy.
special significance for me.
We used to play wolves. Dee was the mom wolf. Me and
I am the oldest. I am the oldest.
me and our brother were the baby wolves. And Bear, our German Shepherd, was the dad wolf. It was really cute.
It was very cute. We had stuffed animals, like the husky stuffed animals and all of the... Oh my God. We had like a whole wolf pack. Why do you have to put me out there like that?
Dee was the mom wolf.
I loved wolves. I still love wolves.
Mom, can you come tell the audience?
You all had an obsession with wolves.
That is not...
You loved wolves.
Specifically,
Yeah, she liked reading about them and the Julie of the Wolves. Was that the name of the book?
Yeah.
And you read that multiple times. And then we had a wolf. I bought you wolf towels, and then we had wolf blanket. We had all kinds of wolves. It was one of our favorite creatures.
Okay. Thank you, Mom. We're cutting it off. We're cutting it off. We're cutting it off. Thank you so much. Mom. Everyone is putting me on blast. I just casually mentioned, I loved wolves. I love wolves. Ris is like, oh, you were obsessed. You wanted to be a wolf.
well,
you were
Mom said you were obsessed with them too.
You guys are undercover haters. But it's fine. I'm glad I'm doing this case. Oh my. It's fine. It's fine. It's okay. It's fine. Anyways,
Tell us more about wolves.
werewolves. Werewolves. Okay. So throughout Europe, everyone was intrigued by these wild men and wolf people. And they were showcased to fuel curiosity and wonder.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't seen as fully human. So these people who suffered with this affliction were treated as creatures that were entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Because hypertrichosis is so rare and visually is very striking, it has significant influence on the myths of werewolves. Imagine coming across someone like Petrus with hair all over his body in a small village way back in the day. It makes sense that they would see this as something supernatural.
Yeah.
In their attempt to try to explain.
Again, just like from a couple weeks ago when we talked about the vampirism and those two conditions that, kind of fueled that story.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same idea. Like your brain tries to rationalize something you don't understand, which is really unfortunate and sad for the people who are afflicted by the disease.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that connection. Interestingly, porphyria also plays a role in this.
Really?
Yep. So we'll get more into it. Fast forward a few centuries, and we enter the world of 19th century freak shows. One of the most famous cases of hypertrichosis during that time was Julia Pastrana, known as the Bear Woman. Julia was born in Mexico in the 1830s and she also had congenital hypertrichosis, as well as a condition that thickened her gums and lips, giving her face a very unusual appearance. She was bought, yes, actually purchased, by a man named Theodore Lent, who went on to marry her and showcase her across America and Europe.
Wow.
What's really sad is that Julia was reported to be a very kind, talented, a wonderful singer and dancer, but she was forced to give all that up as a sideshow where people paid to see her as a freak.
I'm so sad.
Even after her death, her husband had her body preserved and continued to display her.
Ew, that is so
Her husband.
crappy to do.
He exploited her. Her story is very tragic. And instead of being remembered for who she was as a person or her talent or her humanity, she was again exploited for her appearance because of hypertrichosis. The sideshow era didn't just exploit those who had hypertrichosis. It turned them into horror stories. The connection to the wolf man and the supernatural just got stronger, leading people to associate hypertrichosis with something like mystical and supernatural, mysterious. Have you seen the Thriller music video?
I don't think so, but I know the dance.
Michael Jackson turns into a werewolf.
He turns into a werewolf in the music video.
He turns into a werewolf. And even my favorite author, Patricia Cornwell,
Here we go again.
one of the antagonists in the series, suffers with this affliction.
Really?
Yep. So these are just two very isolated examples.
Yeah.
But pop culture is largely responsible for keeping the story of werewolves alive, with werewolf characters appearing in books, films. However, behind the fiction are real people who are living lonely and often misunderstood lives. Now that we've looked at the history and myth, let's talk about the medical side, my favorite side. For those with congenital hypertrichosis, their hair growth, again, is due to mutations in the genes that control hair development. The hair that covers their body is oftentimes very hard to remove. So let's talk about the first type, congenital hypertrichosis languinosa. It's linked to a mutation on chromosome 8, and this is an autosomal dominant disorder that can arise from spontaneous mutations affecting the skin. So it's an autosomal dominant, so you only need one parent to pass it on. A lot of times with the recessive disorders, you need both parents to have a copy of the gene that's mutated. So it would make sense why Petrus and his wife were able to go on to have children that had hypertrichosis. Generalized hypertrichosis is another type. This is a condition inherited again in a dominant pattern associated with chromosome XQ24-27.1. Affected females have a 50% chance of passing the gene on to their children, while affected males can only pass it to daughters. So, mom is going to give one of the X to their children, and dad is definitely going to give an X to a daughter. I didn't recognize that was X-linked. Interesting, right?
That is really interesting.
The next type is generalized hypertrichosis terminalis, and this type is thought to result from a genetic change on chromosome 17 involving the MAP2K6 gene, affecting gene transcription. Another cause, which is throwback that we mentioned earlier, would be conditions like porphyria cutanea tarda, which may lead to localized hypertrichosis on the face in particular. So another type would fall under acquired hypertrichosis, would be caused by different conditions like throwback porphyria. specifically Porphyria cutanea tarda, which can lead to localized hypertrichosis, specifically on the face. And then talking more about potential causes of acquired hypertrichosis, this can be found in cancer and may be linked to metabolic disorders, medications, including minoxidil and different anticonvulsants. Notably, acquired hypertrichosis is often reversible once whatever is triggering it is stopped, which I thought was really cool too. And then, of course, there are some unknown causes. A lot of the genetic causes remain not as well understood as it needs to because of the rarity of the disease, which, again, is another element of mystery. I just want to make sure that it's very clear there is a huge difference between hypertrichosis and another condition that may be somewhat similar called hirsutism. Hirsutism is caused by hormonal imbalances like PCOS and only affects specific areas of the body. Hypertrichosis, though, can cover the entire body and again is a genetic mutation.
So what are you saying? Hirsutism is similar?
Similar.
But it's not related at all.
No. What about treatments? Laser hair removal can work for some, but again, it's costly and you need to stay on top of it. For many, it's about finding acceptance and ways to navigate the world that's often very judgmental. Again, it is a very lonely journey. Many people with hypertrichosis talk about the struggle of being accepted for who they are rather than how they look. So, as this Halloween is fast approaching, or even the next full moon, the werewolf trope with the full moon transformation, the uncontrollable beast within, it's very clear where the inspiration for that myth lies.
Is that true that this inspired it?
Yeah. Werewolves appear across different cultures. In the legends, the Navajo have stories about skinwalkers. In the Slavic folklore, there's tales of people who transform into wolves in order to enact revenge or defend their land. It is really amazing how these cultural symbols continue on. Hypertrichosis may be rare, but it's managed to inspire stories that have endured for centuries. So what do we take away from all of this, Ris?
I take away that people will be mean sometimes when people aren't how they think they should look and things that they don't understand. Their reaction is just to be kind of mean and make assumptions that aren't fair. And I also take away that, again, people are going to create stories out of things that they don't understand to rationalize.
I could not have said that better myself. That was very well said. And it's absolutely true. You know, we've come a long way. As much as I love Greek mythology, we've come a long way from using myths to explain our reality. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not saying that science has all the answers because I don't think it does.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
But I think that, you know, we should never shame or ostracize people based on their appearances.
Very true. Very true.
You know, doesn't matter what that appearance is. You know, sometimes, and also it puts things into perspective too. Because, you know, there's times that I am, you know, not looking at how, like, what other people might be going through.
Yeah.
I'm, you know, and I think that we're all oftentimes very much stuck in our own heads.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we never know what someone is dealing with. feelings of loneliness and isolation are not exclusive to people with this illness, but making that effort to connect with other people, I think is so important.
And being kind to other people and not making assumptions. I feel like a lot of the times it's very easy to assume things, but you don't know the full story until you get to know people and hear about life from their perspective. And it's more worthwhile if you're kind to people.
Beautifully said. Mom, did you want to say something? She's raising her hand.
Maybe what it speaks to me about is one that this has been going on for many years. This condition has been around for a very long time. And it just, how we all can be judgmental because someone might look different on the exterior. And we forget that. Sometimes we forget that we're all the same on the interior and that we all have feelings and need the same things in life. And we all have our struggles, no matter what they are, whether it's our appearance or how we perceive things or any possible impairment we might have. So we should all respect each other and try to see how other people are, what they're going through, like you both said.
Thank you, Mom.
That was very nicely said, Mom.
That was
Very wise.
very wise. So, as much as we love the spooky tales, again, important to remember the real people behind the conditions that have lived challenging lives, just like porphyria or ectoderma pigmentosum. So just throwing it out there. I hope everyone has a safe, spooky, fun Halloween. We love you guys. It's the best season. So let's enjoy it while we still can. Ris?
All right, everyone, we're going to call it. The time is 20:58. That's 8:58 p.m. for those of you who do not use military time. And we are calling it, have an extremely exciting Halloween tomorrow.
Yes.
What are you going to be for Halloween?
A rat.
Ew, what?
Oh, stop.
A wolf.
All right. Love you guys. Talk to you later.
All right, goodbye, everyone. Safe tomorrow, and we'll see you here next week.
Bye.
Bye.